Good day and welcome. I'm Donna Cameron. I am part of Mitratech/Continuity's Regulatory Operations Center. And as we do each month, I am going to be recapping for you some of the activities we saw in the federal banking agency realm during December. So these are items that our team received and processed and analyzed for our clients. And we wanted to make sure that you were aware of those that may be the most impactful so that you haven't missed anything. I'm going to start with the Community Reinvestment Act, or the CRA. We had some housekeeping items here that we get every year. So they announced that they have issued release 2 of the data entry software. This is software that you will need to be downloading if you haven't already done it, and make sure you are using the correct version for your data submission. We also had the most recent disclosure statements made available in the middle of December. Some of you need to get those into your public files, and that is supposed to be done within 3 calendar days of them being available. So if you've not done that yet, make sure you get those into your public files. And lastly, for CRA, we had the agencies announcing the thresholds that will be used to determine whether your institution is small, intermediate, small, or large. So if you've been close to those thresholds at all, you want to take a look at those to make sure you haven't slipped into the next category. The CFPB announced 2023 thresholds that will be used for HMDA, for the CARD Act, for HOEPA loans, for qualified mortgages, as well as the thresholds that will be used to determine whether you may be exempt from HPML escrow requirements and some QM requirements. So take a look at those if you are interested in those thresholds. We had some major changes to HMDA this month. You may be aware that back in September, a court vacated the CFPB's 2020 final HMDA rule. The part of it that said that the threshold for reporting closed-end mortgage loans would be 100. They said, no, you need to go back to the 2015 rule, which established a threshold of 25 closed-end mortgage loans, and that is effective immediately. So if you have been taking advantage of an exemption because you didn't make more than 100 closed-end mortgage loans, you now need to be using 25 for that threshold. And that does take effect, as I said, immediately. So you would want to have started the first of this year with that reporting. And so this is big, especially if you've not been a HMDA reporter before. You will have a lot of work to do to establish your policies and procedures, to get software installed and configured, to train your staff. So there's a lot here if you are impacted by this. The CFPB announced that they don't intend to take any supervisory action against institutions that fail to comply with that 25 loan threshold for data they collected in 2022, 2021, or 2020. But the other agencies have not issued anything like that yet, so we don't know what their posture will be on enforcing that 25 loan reporting limit. We also had the CFPB issue an updated HELOC booklet. So if you have a stock of those already, you can continue to use them up. But if you download the booklet as you need it, or you are getting it from the website, make sure you're getting the most recent version now. We saw the FFIEC's Task Force on Consumer Compliance adopt some revised exam procedures around the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. There were some major changes to the rules in 2020 and 2021, and the exam procedures have now been updated to incorporate those changes. The NCUA announced that federal credit unions may no longer hold all virtual annual membership or board of directors meetings. They had provided that relief as part of COVID considerations. They no longer will allow federal credit unions to have all virtual meetings. You may have hybrid meetings. So you may have meetings where some people are there in person and others attend virtually, but you cannot have all virtual meetings anymore. Another one that we've been waiting for and that has now been proposed is FinCEN's rule on the new database they are required to establish for beneficial ownership information. So this is step 2 of a 3-step process. They are proposing rules around who will have access to that database, how you will access it, and how you will be required to protect and safeguard the information. So that proposal is asking for comments as of February 14th. So once this one is final, then we will be seeing action on a rule to actually amend the BSA so that banks and credit unions will know what they need to do to gather beneficial ownership information. So step 2 of a 3-step process. And from OFAC, we had some new sanctions regulations. These are around the global illicit drug trade. The president issued an executive order announcing that we have a national emergency around the global illicit drug trade. And so OFAC, as they always do, issued some sanctions regulations. The FDIC has adopted some changes to its guidelines for appealing material supervisory determinations. They have added the ombudsman as a non-voting member of the SARC committee. They have said that any material that the SARC committee considers as part of an appeal will generally be made available to both parties to the appeal, and they will permit an institution to ask for a stay of a determination if they have an appeal pending. Also from the FDIC, we have a proposal to change their official sign and advertising requirements. So if you are an FDIC insured institution, make sure you look at this proposal. They are proposing to add some signage. Right now you have the little gold and black sign that you post in certain locations. They would be adding some signs, mostly around digital and mobile channel delivery of products. They also would add a brand new sign that would need to be posted in areas where you are offering non-insured products. So the goal, of course, is to make it very clear to people whether they are getting insured or non-insured products and whether they are dealing with an institution or an organization that is insured by the FDIC. So they would like comments on that one by February 21st. Moving to Regulation O, we had the banking agencies issue a statement, and this goes back to a statement they issued in December of 2019. And back then they said they would not be taking any action against banks with respect to extensions of credit that fund complex controlled portfolio companies that are insiders of the bank. These extensions would otherwise violate Regulation O, but the agencies have said they are not going to take any action because the Federal Reserve is in the process of making some amendments to Regulation O that would address this. Well, those amendments have not yet come through, so they are pushing out the expiration date of their no action policy by a year. So they will now not plan to take any action until January 1st of 2024, or the effective date of any changes that are made to Regulation O by the Federal Reserve. And lastly, from the Federal Reserve, we have some changes to their policy on payment system risk. This was an existing policy. They have made some clarifications and enhancements to the policy around collateralized and uncollateralized intraday credit. They have addressed the deployment of the FedNow service, implementing their automated claim adjustment process enhancements, and they have incorporated their existing policy on overnight overdrafts into this revised policy on payment system risk. So that was a recap of some of the highlights of December. I hope you have a great January, and I look forward to talking with you next month.